Knives are cool. And axes too.
So that's where it all started. Dad started teaching me survival when I was about 10, I guess. He was a Marine who fought the communists in Korea. My aunt was a Marine drill instructor who was dealing with them in Vietnam in the 70s. And we had a situation in the 70s with the recession and Watergate, Jane Fonda, all this stuff going on. And Dad and Maxine all knew that we were up against the communists dealing with it here, and they started.
Still are today.
Yeah, well, they started training us kids to take the country back if it ever came down to that. I don't think they ever foresaw the technology that was going to be. They saw it based on their experiences at the time. So, but yeah, when I was 10 years old, Dad was anchoring the boat like 100 meters off the shore, and we were swimming in. He turned everything into a training exercise.
Wow, and that was here in...
That was in Tampa.
That was in Tampa.
That's
so
where
you're from Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, my grandmother was in Hialeah. My aunt lived in Homestead. We lived in Tampa.
Okay.
In my 20s, I lived in the Keys. I miss Florida a lot.
So, how would I get one of these, or do you have any for sale?
No, I don't.
Kind of cool.
If you want one of these, about the only way I know to do it is join the Tops Knives users group on Facebook and then say, hey, I'm looking for a T-bow. Because they will sell them every once in a while.
Does T-bow stand for anything, or is it just...
It's Filipino for stinger, and it wasn't supposed to be Tops T-bow. It was just supposed to be T-bow. Because I was looking for something like Sting or Stinger, because I'm a Tolkien fan. And so I wanted something along those lines. And so I was looking up how to spell Sting, or how to Sting in different languages, and T-bow was short enough to put on the small blade.
That's amazing.
So I just went
cool information. Wow.
So I went with that.
Well, do you have another one that you've made that's for sale here?
No.
And how did you get in touch with Tops?
I did research and development for Tops and field testing and online marketing and stuff for Mike Fuller back in 2010, 2011. And I was out I did alternative journalism. I'm documenting like what's going on with this. I was in Atlanta in 2020 and Memorial Day, and there 4 days later. So this is all something I've been following for years, how it develops.
Amazing.
And I was sitting one day, and like I said, that was the product of 30 years of, well, if I was down to nothing, what would, because, it's like if you ever read the, on the Tops website, when we put this up, part of the writing was, what's the best survival knife? And if you ask that question enough times, you'll get somebody saying the knife that's on you, because that's when you have, that's when you know. Right. And that's true. If it's small enough to carry it, you'll always have it with you. If it's too big to carry and you don't carry it, then it's not going to help you. So I designed that. It's the purchase is there to use as a GFO.
Okay.
It's designed to use as a skinner. It's designed to be penetrating alligator hide. That's why it's thin, and that's why I removed the skeletonization. But it's like a scalpel on steroids, but it's big enough to...
The steel?
The steel on this one is 154 cm. Now most of them, like 3,000 of them or so, are 1095. Okay. And they're coated in black, camouflage, different colors.
Did it come with a whistle?
Yes, it did. It came with a blue whistle and the blue card and all of that.
That's cool.
But
they're not selling them currently anymore.
No, but go to the Tops Knives users on Facebook.
Okay.
And I'll show you if I can get it back to my page. I'll show you what a friend of mine shared was the coolest picture of T-bows I've seen in a while. That's his collection of them.
Wow.
And
so they did that for him, or he do that?
The handle scales, Joe Snarsky made all those scales, the LMF knives.
I like that one.
But that's a custom camouflage one that he had made. I don't know if you...
Okay, so how many of the skeleton ones did you make?
All of the skeleton, they all started skeletonized. Okay, it was aftermarket people made the scales.
Wow.
Joe Snarsky made some, Kevin Castle from GKC Distributors. Tops were originally supposed to make the scales, but there was a lot going on at that time, and their first attempt at it didn't work, and they never tried it again. I ran out of patience, and I had somebody else make the scales.
Man, that made my day. I've got like a 7-hour drive, but just meeting you, I need to know who made that. Just right here, Joseph, that's the knife.
Right. See, recurves, if you look in the Filipino areas, Nepal, the Nepalese with the kukri, all of that has that recurve area up to the blade. That's what that's for, is when
Right.
they're doing
That's
finer
what-
work, carving stakes, carving points.
Right.
And then the heavy part at the end, the wide part, is that's your chopping spot when you're holding
Okay.
back to here with the lanyard on it. So you get the effective chopping power of a much larger knife.
Okay. Now, you've seen the Randalls and how the Randall has that top bevel that can be sharpened. You'd have two edges.
Yeah, it's called swedge.
What's the advantage? Because some states you can't have a double
Well,
edge.
most Randall knives were designed from combat experience.
Right. So you did
So,
want that.
so
But
I
out in the
didn't
woods-
put it on this
In the
one.
woods, you don't need that.
Well, this one doesn't have one, right? This one, I designed it to be you could beat on.
Right.
Not that you can't beat on one with a swedge. I mean, to me, the baton is just the last piece of firewood.
Right.
I mean, I don't care. I'm not going to take it home with me, so
Exactly.
I don't care if I tear it up.
That's cool.
But that one, the whole point of this one was to be an extreme survival knife, not a combat knife. So I wanted to take the stress and abuse that would come with that.
Got it.
When Lynn McDougall wrote the article on that for Tactical Knives, he mounted it in his trailer hitch and stood on it and had his wife Cheyenne take a picture
Whoa, wow.
at maximum flex and take the picture. And the caption for that picture was, "And true to its name, spring steel, it flexes and flexes back."
So when you saw this and you felt it in your hand, did you feel like this is what I envisioned, or was there something like different that it wasn't what?
I didn't like the way they used the rubber handle for when I had somebody make my card scales for me.
Okay.
Also wished I'd put lightning holes in the handle to throw the weight distribution forward. That's why if you take the handle scales off of this one, it's a solid tank. But if you take the handle scales off the 42, the 42, and the 42D and the 55, they all have relief holes in the handle to throw more weight forward.
Gotcha.
And that was a learning experience for me there.
That was a chance. Okay. If you got a second, I'll tell you real quick the story of going to see Randall.
Okay.
So we went down to Spike's Tactical in Apopka, and then we went to Orlando to see the Randall knives. And we go to the factory. My mom was with me at the time. We drive, and we're trying to find Randall knives, and we're in like the worst part of Orlando.
Yeah, it used to be a
and
nice
there's
part
a
of Orlando.
hooker right there, and there's the gate to go into Randall knives. I'm like, why is there a hooker? We turn in. We must have gone 1.5 miles, 2 miles, nothing but orange groves on either side, and we find Randall knives. We go inside, we take the tour. Halfway through the tour, I just asked the guy, "What's your name?" "So and so Randall." He was a grandson. That was just too
Because he's
cool.
running the company
It made
now
it
as a
real,
grandson,
but
yeah.
it made it real to see
Yeah.
the grandson of the guy.
Yeah, it's all
It was
family.
just cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
It's like buck knives. Buck knives are still run by the family.
I wish I had recorded that, but that was just so to see somebody in person of a knife that I've held in my hand. It's just
Yeah, it
incredible.
makes it more real. It
does.
gives you a perspective on where it came from.
Exactly. So thank you so much. I'll
Thank
be
you.
looking all that stuff up. All right.
Yeah, well, I'll
And,
look for the
knives
video.
are cool and axes too. Look for that. That'd be awesome.
My name is Brian.
I'm Robert. Oh,
Robert.
Robert Breaker. Robert Breaker.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir. I'm a preacher, so I have a preacher channel, but I want to get people that like knives to come over to my preaching channel.
Oh, good. We're
or
on the same
people
page
that
there
like my
because
preaching come to the knives channel. One of
we're
the two.
on the same page there. I'm trying to
Okay.
bring more people back around to Christ myself. So
That's
that's
important.
something that I include sometimes in my videos. I try not to get too heavy-handed with it, but I let them know where my thoughts are.
Amen.
It's like it says in the Bible, deny me before your friends and I'll deny you before my
Yeah.
Father. So I make sure he knows I'm not denying him anywhere.
Well, to me, the most important thing is the blood of Jesus. Don't forget the
Absolutely.
blood. And I've cut myself so many times with a knife that I can't forget the blood because I spill my own on accident. But it's what he did for us, shedding his blood for us. So that's what I try to convey to people, that importance of the blood.
Oh yeah, very important.
Right.
I mean, and there's different ways to look at it. It's like a soldier. I kind of see that as possible, for lack of a better way to see it, as a biological warfare. I mean, his blood's different than our blood, but by
Right.
spilling his blood here in the earth,
Oh, yeah. He got the victory.
it
Amen.
changed things. So, I mean, it gave us something in his blood that we didn't have before.
Exactly.
And I think that's how we survive all these assaults. I think, we're under assault for a long time now. The Nephilim didn't go away. And,
I agree with you. Amen.
I mean, my thought is, Pandora was probably a Nephilim virologist. I mean, it's just where I'm at. It's like,
Gotcha.
it all ties together. I mean, science and everything. I mean, science is just the study of what's here.
Exactly.
So I mean, they all combine. It's like, well, you can't believe one, believe the other. It's like, well, I don't know that I believe in evolution, but I believe in science because I'm a scientist. I mean, the way I found God was
science.
in the nature. It's like my preacher told me when I was 12, when I was saved, he said, "I know you well enough to know you won't find God here in this church. You won't find him in that book. You'll find him out there in the woods where you hang out." And that's exactly where I found him.
Wow.
I'm writing a book now called based on a question. I'm a writer, have been for a while, but one of my customers asked me about buck knives while we were talking. She said, but how did you know? And I was like, excuse me? She said, obviously you know you found God. How did you know? And so I told her the nutshell version of it, which is blowing up pictures and seeing how bees walking around the corona of a passion flower plant and seeing how the anthers and the stamens arch down to contact the spot on the bee.
God
And
made
it's
that.
like, yeah, that's a design. As a designer, I can
Exactly.
recognize design. I'm like, that wasn't no accident.
Exactly.
So I started blowing it up over and over again, all the pictures, and I started seeing how everything worked together. And I'm like, yeah, the whole Big Bang Theory is blown away from me now. I can see the evidence of design. And so she said, well, why don't you write that book instead of the psychological thriller you're working on? She said, maybe the world needs that book more. So I pulled off the other one and started writing this.
There you go. Well, can I get a picture with you before we go?
Absolutely.
Because I know you got to get back to work. Can you get a picture? This is awesome. That's made my day. So thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Knives are cool. And axes too.